Welcome back to CBS This Morning. There is disturbing new video of what happened before the death of George Floyd at the hands of police. A warning, these images are distressing. This footage is from the body camera of former Minneapolis officer Tu Tao. It shows how a crowd gathered as Floyd was held down. Many people repeatedly asked officers to check his pulse. Floyd's death is linked to a troubling reality about encounters with law enforcement. On average, black men and women are 5 times more likely to be stopped by police without good reason than white people. Videos like these of unarmed black people being arrested with excessive force have become all too common and raise questions about whether police treatment of African Americans is marked by systemic racism.
This officer already had it in his mind there was going to be a physical encounter because I did nothing to encourage it, nothing to provoke it.
Even tennis star James Blake, once ranked 4th in the world, was not immune to the disparate treatment of black men by cops.
When I leave the tennis world, I go back to being just a black man. And that means if I put a hoodie on and I go out for a run, I'm a suspect.
In 2015, Blake was forcibly taken down by an NYPD officer while standing outside of a New York City hotel in a case of mistaken identity.
And I wasn't even mistaken for a violent criminal. The person he was looking for was someone that was making credit card fraud. And instead of me running or me fighting, if that had been the case, I have a feeling he would have made it a whole lot worse.
It's been 5 years. Are you still living with this?
The physical scars are gone, but mentally, for sure. And every time I get pulled over or I get stopped or I'm around police, I'm a little more nervous. And with the fact that now I realize how little accountability there is for them to abuse their power, I'm nervous. I'm scared.
The fear Blake experiences today as a result of that incident is just one of the long-term effects of racism.
Well, racism is a trauma. It's just as much of a trauma as combat, rape, assault. Life in and of itself is living in a war zone.
Dr. Monica Williams has studied racial trauma for much of her career and says a starting point for change is a simple one: understanding what racism is.
For most white people, a racism is a white supremacist or somebody running around burning crosses. The bigger problem is that our whole culture operates under an umbrella of white supremacy. We have racist outcomes even without individual people doing racist things.
Anthropology professor Mark McCoy is tackling that notion head on.
At any point in your life, would you have described yourself as a racist?
You know, have I had racist thoughts? I'm sure. I don't think you get to grow up and be white in America and not have those things and have blind spots.
McCoy tweeted about his white privilege, drawing parallels to the incident with George Floyd, who was initially detained by Minneapolis police for allegedly spending a counterfeit $20 bill.
I spent the night in jail. I received 6 months probation, and that was the end of it.
For Floyd, it was a death sentence.
Why do you believe the outcome was so different?
I think it comes down to viewing people of color as humans, their humanity. One of the roles of the police is, of course, to police our society in a way that is fair, and we don't have that system. Until you can't statistically tell the difference between my children and everybody else's children, then we have a problem.
It's a system that for decades disproportionately protects white Americans, like Tampa Bay Rays pitcher Colin Poche.
It was pretty shocking to think that, maybe my appearance was different. My outcome could have been pretty similar to his.
Poche says when he was 12 years old, the same age as Tamir Rice, he too was caught by police playing with a toy gun.
A cop drove down the street, gave us a 5-minute talk and, went on with his day. And, I couldn't help but, just notice the differences and similarities in our stories.
The difference was a fatal one. Rice was shot and killed by a Cleveland police officer in 2014.
A lot of these conversations are uncomfortable, but, these are the kind of talks you have to try to get that hate out of the system.
We're not looking to be treated better than anyone else, just equality. Equality shouldn't feel like a step down for white America. It's not taking away from anything they've done right now, but it's time for it to change.
And there are people who still deny these similarities. But when you see it in black and white, right?
Yeah.
Same instance, same description, but different outcomes.
Yeah. That James Blake video is just startling every time I see it.
Yeah, it really is.
It's really stunning.
And I always tell people, you have to keep in mind that you go after vulnerable communities. Those vulnerable communities are just the canary in the coal mines for the rest of society. It can happen to you too eventually. So stop it, nip it in the bud.
The video is there.